Hi, welcome back. Today I wanted to talk about writers' conferences. Should I go to a writers' conference? If so, why? Writers' conferences. I have only been to 3. I'm going to go to my 4th one in a couple days. So I was kind of wrestling along with this idea of writers' conferences. Should you go? Yes. Why should you go? To make contacts, to meet people, to get exposure in the industry, to learn. There's a lot of really great classes that you can take, from marketing to characterization, plot. I mean, you name it. There are classes at writers' conferences for fights, how to block out your fights correctly. I mean, it depends on what kind of writers' conferences you go to. I've gone to one that's really big on speculative fiction, so that's like sci-fi and fantasy, and so when you go to that conference, there's a lot of classes that help with that type of writing and genre. The one that I'm going to in Oregon is just more of a general writing conference, so I'm excited to kind of meet people. That's a really exciting part. That's also kind of hard because it's hard for me to be able to sometimes to step out of my shell to meet people, and I love to connect with people, but sometimes I find that it's a little bit hard when I'm in these situations where it's forced, especially if you're going and there's some people there who you admire, who are famous authors or publishers. Sometimes I kind of feel like, oh man, are they going to think I only want to talk to them because of who they are? Or do I want to get to know them as an individual? And so that's kind of my big thing with writers' conferences. But I love to get to know people, and I love to talk on a non-surfacey level. So when I go to these things, I have to kind of keep that in mind. Like, this is their career and my career, and we can connect together and we can further each other's careers. So that's a really important part. So I have been given this advice when you go to writers' conferences or you're meeting people who are in the industry, to ask a lot of questions. So that's what I try to do. I try to go and ask about people because I'm genuinely curious about, like, how did you start your career? Where are you? What do you write? What have you found that's been really hard? So when you're in these situations, asking a lot of questions is great, and it's important to listen also. So I think in one of the classes that I went to, I think that the teacher said, ask, listen. So making sure that you're listening, and then that way, if you really are able to connect with somebody, next time you see them, you can ask about the information that they told you before. So that's a really cool thing to be able to do, to think about, like, I'm going to connect with these people not because of who they are, but because of them being in the same process that I am. And sometimes they're a little bit further on in the journey, and that you can learn a lot from them. Also, a really cool aspect of going to writing conferences is that you get the opportunity to make appointments with agents and publishers and editors. That was the original reason why I went to my first conference last year, is because I wanted to find a publisher or an agent to help with my manuscript. So I went and I met with people, and it was scary at first. And the first lady I met with was really so gracious to me, and she was like, okay, let me explain to you what this is supposed to look like. And she did, and then we just had a great conversation about my manuscript. And so some people will just really, you'll be able to connect with them really easily, and you guys will talk about what's going on. And sometimes if all the stars align and they like you and you like them, they'll ask to see your manuscript, or they'll ask to see a proposal. So that's a really great thing to make connections and to have people look at your work. Sometimes you'll meet with people and it's just a mentoring relationship. So this past conference I went to, I met with an agent, and I knew that he did not represent what I wanted, but I knew that I wanted to meet him and have just a talk about, books or the publishing industry, and get his advice for what he thought I should do next. So it was actually my favorite part of that conference was getting to sit and talk with him for a little bit. And we talked about dystopian novels because we both love dystopian, and then we kind of brainstormed about my pitch for my novel that I'm doing, and just some ideas about how we can kind of go around some of the stumbling blocks that I'm having. And it was just a great time to talk and connect, and for me, it was no pressure. And so I think that's also kind of why I enjoyed it. So when you meet with the different agents and editors, it's important to be prepared. So my writing mentor told me, here's a list of people that I want you to meet with, and I want you to research them. So I went and I researched all these people, and this was the first year that I did that. And it was a huge difference for me because I knew so much about them that I was able to ask great questions. I was able to connect better with them and in a more genuine way, and I wasn't so nervous because I actually started to really like these people. The more research you do about them, I saw them more as people and less like, oh, you know, people up on a pedestal kind of thing. So that's a great thing to do. Research the people that you're going to meet with. Attend the classes, take notes, meet people. A lot of times people think that, I guess when people go to these things, you have to have the mindset that I'm here to meet people, I'm here to connect. And so that can be tiring for people if you're an introvert, or really exciting and life-giving if you're an extrovert. So I think that there's just so many good qualities, or there's so many good things that you can learn from going to a writer's conference. And I definitely think it's worth the time and the money. If you want to know more about this, leave a comment. I'll probably do a couple other videos talking about some different aspects of writers' conferences that you can go to. What's your favorite writers' conference? I'd love to hear that. I'm looking for in 2019 to go to a couple different ones. So I'd love to hear what you have to say, and I'd love to hear your advice for what's the best advice you have for someone who is going to a writers' conference the first time. So thanks so much. I appreciate your time. Take care.